Good afternoon, Abhinav. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Eeshani. I'm well. How are you?
Good. So, welcome to our Analyticshala expert talk. And today we have Abhinav, who has been working in a variety of companies. So, I'll let him do the talking about the companies that you work for. But Abhinav, let's start with your educational background. Could you give me, a journey through what you have studied and where you've studied?
Absolutely. So, Eeshani ma'am, I actually am a BTech graduate. I graduated in the year 2012. So, I started my career in the year of 2014, mid of 2014, and I started as an HR. So, more specifically into HR recruitment. I was working for a small time company and then I switched over to another company where I was working as a recruiter again. And then there was an organization which I joined in January 2015 where I worked for a good 3 years. So that's where I was, acting I was wearing a variety of hats. I was being an account manager, handling a team of recruiters, handling a little bit of reporting here and there. But there was no solid focus on the job profile that, I really wanted to get into. So I was quite intrigued by the data culture at that time because it was just spurting in the year of 2016, 2017. So
Mm-hmm.
at that moment, I decided, I should go, read more about it and see what exactly it is. So I actually started reading Excel, and I started using Excel here and there, but I wasn't really expert because I needed a guide and a focus on, because you can go and watch all the YouTube videos you want, but there's always a lack of focus that comes with it. And
Mm-hmm.
still, the experience that you will get in class is totally different than what you get from a pre-recorded session. So I wanted to polish my skills on the advanced analytics side and how this ecosystem particularly operates. So I joined Ivy in the year 2018. By the end of 2018, I remember
Mm-hmm.
around September, October. So the very first class that I had was with Ishani ma'am actually, which was
Yeah.
Excel. So to be very honest, walking into data analytics at that moment was very scary. The reason being, Ishani, I was from an HR background,
Mm-hmm.
and though I had done some SQL certifications, etc., but still there was a tad doubt which always followed me through. Like, am I going to get it? What
Mm-hmm.
exactly it is? It's totally new field, etc. But as I started studying in IB, I understood that things could be made simpler if you just have a right amount of focus and and some dedication. And Ishani ma'am made sure that we had the dedication because we had these continuous homeworks that we had to do and
Yeah, did my
continuously
bit.
and the assessments that followed up through. So the Excel part was really fun, and when came to other classes, be it R or be it in the statistics classes, or the SQL classes or the
Mm-hmm.
aptitude classes that were taken by Pratik sir, they really contributed to one little thing, which was building my data semantics. So
Mm-hmm.
the very first thing that I understood studying at Ivy, to be a good data business analyst, you first have to be really good with data, and
Correct.
then comes the later part of doing the analytics and the analysis. So that's where the SQL classes of Pratik sir came in handy. He made us understood what exactly data logics are and what are the kind of challenges that we can face. And I still remember there was a very complicated question based on Harry Potter, and I couldn't sort it out. And Pratik sir was visiting Bangalore the other day, so I went to IB and he solved that out for me.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's one. And then the second thing that we have to see is companies do not hire you because you have written Python, R, SQL, etc. on your CV. They hire you based on how you form your framework of solving a problem.
Correct.
So
Absolutely correct.
exactly. So one of the classes that Pratik sir was saying, which was based around aptitude, the questions were very vague. Like, you are in a forest and you have this stuff. What exactly it is that you're going to pick up, which is going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So the principle was not to know what you're going to do or what the result be, but the principle was to know how do you think, how do you form your conscience to get around a problem and arrive at a solution which satiates you. So That's what I found out, Ishani, is before going into data analytics, I had to be really, really strong in data. That's one. And second thing, I have to form a kind of a theory before, let's say if I'm doing a data analytics, the very first thing that we do when we are doing data analysis is to hypothesize something.
Mm-hmm.
So our hypothesis matters a lot on how we are going to do the analysis and what business decisions are going to come out of it. So these are the things that I really kept in mind while I was giving out the interviews. And luckily, while I was in IDXL, I got the chance through your classes of VBA scripting, etc., to design reports and HR analytics setup for them. So how did the HR infusion happen here? Because I was already working as a part of the HR team,
Mm-hmm.
and all I had to do was to extend and channelize my existing skill set of data and analytics to the HR function. At
Correct.
that moment, the HR analytics was not really a full-blown function here in India, and I thought it could be a benefit for me as well to be an early comer in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped my present company IDXL to design their HR dashboards and get a a comprehensive record of the data, and help them record the HR data and how what are the kind of KPIs that they can record to come to a useful solution, etc. And then there were other analytics project that we actually piloted within the organization to bring down the attrition. So they were mostly based around the statistical techniques. So I'll give you an example. So let's say one of my manager comes to me and tells me that my high performers are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not that we go away, we just take that notion and we just run away with it, that we have to do something about it. First, we have to confirm whether the high performers are leaving or not. So in
Correct.
that case, what we used to do, we pick out all the scores of the existing people, whatever the scores of existing people are actually getting, and the scores of people that have already left. Then we did a
Mm-hmm.
small t-test on these two. And then if we found no significant difference, it means there is no weight on the thought that
Relation.
the high performers are
Yeah.
leaving. Then what exactly is the problem? So the problem was that the people were high performers in their head, but they were not rating them so.
Mm-hmm.
So we designed a 180 degree feedback form system, and then we transformed it to 360 feedback system as well. And we made sure that they are identifying a high performer and a low performer every quarter. And then we did a
Okay.
focus group with our employees as well to understand what exactly are their problems and stuff. So it really helped me see, the thing is, we were not really using very full blown analytics over here, but we
Mm-hmm.
got the job done. That was because we only use what the problem required. It's not necessary whether it's not necessary that for a smaller requirement we are going to go ahead and do a full blown predictive model, etc. So
Correct.
based on the context of the problem, we have to come up with a solution, and that's the whole essence of being an analyst. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that was there in IDXL, and then I switched my job to Oyo. And while I went to Oyo, I had offers from Abhinav, I had offers from AXA Business Services as well, and they were all for HR analytics and business analytics. So I joined Oyo as a part of HR Excellence and Analytics team, and I was on the hotspot of different HR functions. So be it training and development, be it people operations, and be it supply excellence. So I was on the juncture of them. And Oyo is a huge organization with a
Mm-hmm.
variety of data. So it was like a gold mine for me to learn. So, and given that the skills that I've already learned from IB, be it from the the R language, the SQL, or the aptitude, whatever it came, it came in very handy in Oyo itself. So in Oyo, I was, able to. So let me tell you, the VBS scripting that I learned, it's not about like I learned a programming language, but it kind of built a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So once you are aware of what the logics operate on one programming language, it's very easy to channelize the same skill set to different programming languages as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So presently, I'm working with Python, and I
Okay.
was working with R earlier, and then before that, I was working with VB. And it's just because I have learned that one particular language, and now I know how the theory operates now. So even at this point in time, even if I forget, how actually VBA works, I still know how Google Apps Script works.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that you build on what you have, what you already have. So I was using Google Apps Script as well in Oyo to automate their reports. And by the time I was leaving Oyo, I was kind of, I considered an expert on Google Apps Script to automate all their scripts, etc. Yeah. And And it was pretty surprising to me because earlier, before joining IB, Ishani, quite honestly, programming was not my cup of tea. Because this being from an HR background, and you can understand from BTech, I moved to HR. That was
Mm-hmm.
mostly because, there was something about programming that wasn't really my cup of tea. But I was so interested in programming and how the logics operated, and it's all about how you are as good as your teacher is. So I understood how the programming semantics are operating, and I just thought, this is so simple. We can, do other things with it. So, it just went away with that. So the very thing that is stuck with me while working with Ivy is to be always be open into learning something new.
Hmm.
And the foundations were developed so that it could be channelized from one skill to another. So in my present organization, I'm using Power BI as a data visualization tool. In OYO, I was
Excellent.
using Tableau.
Yeah.
So
Again, the
though
fundamentals remain the same.
exactly the poles have shifted, but the semantics and the logic remains the same.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I'm using DAX measures right now, and I was using a level of detailed expressions
LODs, yeah.
LODs in Tableau, so it all remains the same. The poles have shifted, but the logic remains the same. So what I can tell the present students at IB, that if you don't understand something, if something that's coming as a challenge to you, I urge you not to give up on the problem, because you might fail in solving a problem 500 times. It's not like you have failed 500 times, you have just found 500 ways the problem could not be solved.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes a long way. So the next time that problem comes into your mind, 500 things that do not work on that problem. And trust me, it's more important to know what doesn't work instead of knowing what works.
Correct. And
Yeah,
I think until unless you don't get your hands dirty yourself and somebody,
exactly.
gives the logic to you easily, you can't remember that for the next time. It's just somebody has told you you've done it. But if you get your hands dirty, like you're saying, which is an excellent, suggestion, and I hope people go by that. Until unless you don't do that hit and trial, it really doesn't sink in the logic behind why you are doing it.
Absolutely, Shani. I
Otherwise,
remember.
it's just like that. You're absorbing it. That's it.
Exactly. I remember wrestling with this VBA code for at least 3 weeks. And because I was leaving IDXL, and I had to create something fully automated for them so that
Mm-hmm.
they can click just one button and everything just pulls through. So I had to write up this about 120 lines of code, and I was just wrestling with the code for 2 weeks straight. But at the end, it was such a fulfilling, feeling when the code actually ran when I clicked on the play button. So
Absolutely.
it's all attributed to the fact that though I was, though I was just working towards a problem, I was not thinking like, that, I yeah, it's not working. Let's move on to something else. I was like, no, let's figure something out, because I was learning at that point, Ishani.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty important for me to understand what does not work. And the same thought process has really worked well for me in the interviews that I have presently given as well. So I do hold offers from a top five investment bank right now, which is for a manager of business consulting.
Mm-hmm.
I have an offer coming in from CapG, which is for a senior consultant, and another offer from Big Four, which is
Okay.
again coming for a supervisor role.
Nice.
So, and internally, my company is still wrestling with me to for giving me an early promotion to help me stay back. So whatever I have learned, I do not think myself as an expert, Ishani. I just think myself of as a person, an underdog who just never gave up on a problem. So, being an analyst, we should not crib or complain about the present setup, what we the company is using. We should be flexible enough to pick whatever has been, provided by the company, and to make sure the solutions that we give are actually in context of the problem. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yes, when
And
we
we are
are
in technology. So technology is always going to evolve. Like you said, I think
absolutely,
when you were at Ivy, we had R and SAS, and now we have Python and R. And then you were learning it yourself.
exactly,
You spoke about Google scripting. I don't think so you've done Tableau. So you did Tableau and then you did Power BI. So that talks, we are in technology. So if you don't upgrade, you're outdated
yeah.
basically.
I even did Google Data Studio, Ishani. That was also a part of it. So I was learning and applying the other day.
That's nice. Uh, Abhinav, if you could help me understand, because I have students coming to Ivy these days who are coming from the similar background as yours, which are from HR, and exactly the same thought process that being in HR, they're a little afraid of data. but at the
Uh-huh.
same time they are not able to understand how analytics really merge with this field of HR. So if you could talk about like one of the use cases that you were talking about to see the high performers were leaving, what are the other things in which analytics can help in HR? Because right now, not in India I would say, but if you talk about or you look around in the
Mhm.
outside India, the people in analytics is big. It's a huge domain right now.
It is, yes.
And over there also I know people are struggling to make people understand that it's not just you're helping business, you are helping business, it's indirectly you're helping business. So if you could
I
talk about
understand.
some use cases for us.
Absolutely. So I've written a couple of blogs on that as well, Ishani. So while I have worked with a lot of HRs that were actually aspiring to be into HR analytics field, the very basic thing that I used to talk to them is to HR comes later, you have to understand analytics first.
Mm-hmm.
So irrespective of the data that you use, we have worked on Tesco data, we have worked on different data in Ivy. So it
Mm-hmm.
didn't mean that we cannot use that particular skill set to a different data. So the data
Correct.
could change, but the only thing is your domain gets fixated on HR, and you being from the HR background, they could use your expertise, industry expertise, to form a structure around the problem. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go around finding different solutions. You know what exactly could be the problem, what are the KPIs that you have to work on, and how you can fix it. So being from the HR background, Nishani, so let's say when we are talking about the present COVID situation,
Mm-hmm.
correct? So the COVID situation has done two things. So the first thing that people have basically lost their job, who were working on in a companies that were really dependent on having people interacting with each other, and stuff like
Right.
that. But
Face. Yeah.
but the companies like cloud security organization, the software solutions, the company like mine, their growth has been put on steroids per se.
Mm-hmm.
So so what happens, the competition, instead of decreasing during the COVID, it increases. The company like SolarWinds and VMware, they are hiring very aggressively right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's natural that your attrition will go up in the organization. So how do you control it? That's where you have to work on. So
Correct.
so what we did in our present organization, as a part of it, is basically to kind of give, the very first thing that we did was to empathize with the employee and tell them that your job is safe. We took
Mm-hmm.
basically an employee NPS score, and we found out that people were not really feeling safe about the job. So the CEO had an interview, and that was published to the employees as well, that your jobs are safe, there are no tickets that are going to happen, etc., etc. So the very first thing that we did was to generate a kind of a faith in the organization. And the
Mm-hmm.
second thing, we told them that no, your appraisals would not be halted, don't worry
Mm-hmm.
about it. So what people did, they, if with a little bit of faith, they understood, yes, this company is going to stand by me, it's not a good idea to leave a job right now for a different job at present. So
Correct.
so depending on the situation, Ishani, it comes into handy. And what, as an HR analyst, you have to know is to connect different data sources together. So when I say different data sources in the HR function, we will have HR business partner, we will have
Mm-hmm.
talent acquisition, training and development, and then we will have people operations, etc., etc. So all these HR functions, they generate some kind of data through a common tool, or through different tools altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So as an HR, you have to have that kind of technical expertise per se, not expertise. If I know, you just have to have that awareness on how to connect these data sources together.
All right.
Like when I was working with Oyo, we had this huge problem where the property managers, the basic people basically who are on the properties,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of the properties, they were trained by the training team, and we had to get the effectiveness of training team back. So like, let's say if I've trained a person today, what exactly was the rating of the property after 15 days of training, after 10 days
Okay.
of training? Has it increased from the past 10 days before the training, or has it decreased? What
Right.
exactly was the effectiveness of training? Now the statement, the challenge here was, one property manager was pretty mobile. They were moving from one property to another within a matter of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So the post shifted and the data used to shift. We didn't need really know where exactly, which properties performance do we have to manage. So the
Mm-hmm.
very first thing that I did was to introduce a unique ID system over there, wherein
Okay.
I concatenated the first name, last name with the mobile number at the rate of some oyo.com,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It was not a legit email ID, but it was acting as a primary key for us. And then we already had Oyo property IDs.
Mm-hmm.
So we started tagging those primary IDs to the Oyo property IDs with the start and end date.
Okay.
What happens, we got to know the time span, we got to know where the property manager was.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of became a dynamic field to record what exactly was the score of the property at this day. He was here at this property on during this week. This was the score of
Mm-hmm.
that property during that week. So we found out that the performance of the property manager usually dips around this time of 20 to 24 days after the training.
Okay.
So we started reinstating the training again, and giving people
More frequency.
frequently. And
Yeah.
then we also did a t-test, a pair t-test more specifically, to figure out the impact of the training before the training and after the training, the scores that we
Mm-hmm.
get. So being an analyst is not just about doing all your statistics and all your data. First, you have to have a very good understanding of how do you prepare your data.
Mm-hmm.
When the data is prepped, so like it's a very simple concept which you have told me about, which was garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah,
So
that's my favorite line.
yeah, so it's like you work on garbage and you get garbage decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first thing that we have to make sure, whatever data we are pulling in, it is relevant for the information that is required. I don't need to know what is the weight of my employees.
Right.
I need to understand how long they were on a one particular property, what was their NPS score, were they happy, were they not, how
Mm-hmm.
many days were they trained, or etc. So, being an HR analyst, you have to be very, because the very thing that Ishani, that analysts basically move is, I mean, they basically lack is the awareness of a data culture, more
Mm.
specifically.
I agree.
I have seen
And
the
they're somehow
HRIs.
scared. They're scared. Somehow I feel they're scared because I deal with a lot of HR and L&D people in the corporates when I'm, working in the corporate trainings. And somehow I feel these are the guys pushing us to give data training to their other employees, whereas these are the guys who also need training to manage their data. They have a
Yep.
huge lot of data, huge
Well,
amount
well,
collected in HR.
so was I, because I was in HR at one point, Ishani. So
Yeah.
I was just as scared. So yeah, so it wasn't about how scared I just accepted for a fact that future is a data driven culture.
Absolutely.
Yes. So come what may, if you're doing away with it, the only reason that I was able to secure my job during a COVID period, Ishani, had I been a regular HR, which I was earlier, I wouldn't have been able to secure my job. There was there was a very huge doubt around it. But since
Mm-hmm.
I knew that data is something which is very sustainable, and it's a very sustainable career for at least next 10 years, or more than 10 years as well. And the more
Yeah.
you learn about it, it's like you age like fine wine when you're working as a data analyst, because you're not doing simple programming day in day out. You're learning
Yes.
new things, and you are working on a variety of data, and people actually respect that. So even if you are 50 or 55 years old, people will get to know that yes, he has worked on this and this company for this and this data, he has a very deep knowledge about it.
Right.
So this is something which which you build as a skill. And HRs are usually scared, Ishani, because HR business is more on the talking and the functional side. So
Mm-hmm.
to my suggestion to them is not to get into everything all at once, is to start small. Start with Excel,
Mm-hmm.
learn how to make a table,
Mm.
and once you have made a table, understand what a primary key or a foreign key or a composite key, etc. is. So, and you don't have to go into joins and all those stuff right away. First, you have to understand how a basic data, let's say even 4 lines of data, how it is, how does it operate. So usually, why they are scared, Ishani, because they're looking at a big picture from very afar. So it's a big floating balloon out there, and they're like, how do we get there? But it's not about, if you just walk one step every day, you will be there.
You will be surprised, Avina, what we have done. It's been, long time since you left Ivy. Now, what we are forcing people to do is do internships at Ivy.
Yeah,
And even you will be surprised that, the thing that looks very obvious to us, like, yeah, this is what we're teaching, and that's what is obvious to the candidates to learn. I still feel when I give a data, people ask me this question, what do I do with it? I'm like, that's what you're supposed to start thinking, what can you do with
exactly.
it? You have so much knowledge, so many tools. Think of what all can I bring out from this data. And that's what we're trying to drive in the candidates these days, because this
And
component is
and to
still
be
missing.
honest, very honest, Ishani, whatever interviews I had were on the similar lines. I was given a
Yeah.
data and do something with it. And it wasn't like, I mean, I I wasn't going back to them and asking them what do I do with this data.
Exactly.
The very first thing that I looked, what are the things that are present in the data. So let's say if I am given a data with the years of experience of the candidate, the salary, the incentive, and let's say the hiring date, the termination date, etc. So the very first thing that I can find is the attrition in the company month on month. That's one.
Hmm.
Second, I could find whether the median of, or let's say the standard deviation of the salaries of the people that have left. If the standard deviation is small, then I can go ahead and see what exactly was the average or the median, so I can
Hmm.
figure out whether the salary was a problem where people have left.
Correct.
So this all we have to remember is to find something that is useful to the business. I'm not going back and telling them that there are four people in your company called Mike, five people in your company called called Radha. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, correct. So the journal profile that we are coming out with and
Exactly.
saying, okay, let's watch out for these kind of profiles.
Exactly. So you have to kind of start from the considering a business problem. Like, yes, they want to understand, because hiring a person is always more expensive than retaining them.
Oh, yes, definitely, definitely.
Exactly. So that's why you have to first understand, that's where you save the cost. As an analyst, you have two major responsibilities through and through. First, either to increase the effectiveness of the system. Second, or either reduce the cost, or do
Correct.
both of them at once. So
Hmm.
this is what you have to keep in mind, and not really get. And there's also one concept, and explained by Pratik sir as well, which was analysis paralysis. So what that means is to you dig yourself so deep into the analysis that you are not able to see outside. So just to make sure that you keep pulling yourself out of that hole, and keep yourself focused on what you want to hypothesize actually.
Right.
And your hypothesis should be come very natural from your experience as an HR, and secondly, it should be very useful to the business to generate insights.
True. So, Abhinav, you have actually given a lot of input from your side. That's great. One more question I'll ask you is in you were talking about it's not always that the predictive models really help you to, get to the bottom of the business problem. So, if I have to give, top three tools that a person entering into HR analytics must know, like
Mhm.
what do you think are the top three tools that a person should absolutely know?
A person, not just for HR analytics, Ishani, I think for general analytics is Excel.
Hmm.
They should know Excel. There's no way around it, because Excel is something which builds your foundation not only just for data, but you also get to know about the logic of certain formulas as well.
Hmm.
So your mind starts working in a way where when you're doing the Excel formula, let's say count ifs or nested formulas, like ifs within a if, or if
Right.
count within an if. So it does nothing. It seems like a formula that you're writing, but inadvertently it's building your foundation of programming,
Correct.
where you're learning the logics and how what exactly would be the output of the inner bracket coming out to the outer bracket and to the outermost bracket. So
All
this
right.
is so that's the very first thing that they should know as the advanced Excel. Second thing is very important. I mean, in statistically, from in statistical terms,
Mhm,
they should learn what an ANOVA is, what
mhm,
t-test is, what exactly are the different type of statistical graphs that are used. Let's say a histogram, or a
mhm.
box plot, or
Right.
a density plot. So they should know what exactly this is, because they do this seem a little complicated, but once you understand them, they're very helpful in the long term. So that's second. And third thing that they should understand is to put emphasis on the data visualization. So it
Hmm.
doesn't matter whether they are using Power BI or Tableau or Google Data Studio or Alteryx, whatever they're
Hmm.
using.
Whatever, huh?
They just have to make sure that these visuals that they're presenting to the business, they look very appealing, one. And second thing, they should be able to help them with their business, the
Mhm.
key performance indicators, as we call it.
Right.
So they should know about these. And also for the predictive modeling, while I said that it's not really necessary to do predictive modeling, but predictive modeling gets necessary when you want to prepare a full-blown model and give them a deeper insight on the data that you have. So I'm
Correct.
presently using Python with time series. I'm using modeling using time series algorithm for Dickey Fuller and Arima. So we to either learn R or either learn
Mhm.
Python to get that done. But I would suggest to as of now, I'll say I'm more comfortable with Python, because it's a little easier. Simple,
It's more English. It's way
simple
more
put.
English. Yeah.
Exactly. It's simply put, it's
Right.
pretty easier, and it could help you automate a lot of tasks as well. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not limited to your predictive models, etc.
Right.
So, so the very first thing that they have to learn is Excel. Second thing, they have to be very good with their statistical concepts, at least the basic ones. They have to know the visualization, that's third. And
Visualization.
lastly, they should know for predictive and prescriptive modeling, they should either know R or Python or SAS, whatever they would like to use for that purpose.
Mm-hmm. All right. And how do you see the future of HR? Because I know, like, I think this year only we trained about 1,000 people
Mhm.
in one of the big company, 1,000 people for HR analytics. That's a big thing. That's a very big
It
thing.
is.
So, my mindset was typically because when I look around for jobs or talk to companies, HR analyst was not there. But suddenly this company comes up and say, train my 1,000 HR analytics. I'm like, okay, this is good. So how do you see the future of an HR analytics?
HR analytics is shifting the dynamics of the roles here, Ishani, drastically. And I'll tell you why. Because HR usually is seen as more of a burner function. Burner function as in most of a cost burner function.
Mm-hmm.
And what HR analytics has done is given them a data backing and given them solid proof to have a seat on the table with the execs. So at this point in time, HRs just don't have their talks, and they are going back to the team and saying that five of your employees are disgruntled, and this is what has happened. They have a data backing, they have a data proof, and they have these sophisticated models that they can present to the business and tell this is the problem, this is the potential solution, and this is
Mm-hmm.
how we can stop it. So the HR analytics future, if you ask me, Ishani, it's pretty big because what would
Okay.
happen, Ishani, as I'll give you an example. We had these developers and QAs, etc., that are presently in companies, but right now there is a composite role called SDET, software development
Mm-hmm.
engineer and test. So the
Mm-hmm.
person is building automation framework, they are doing a little bit of development here and there. So the roles are the roles are being composite right now. Companies are focusing more on being lean right now to
Mm-hmm.
hire more people who are actually aware of more than one thing and a little versatile with what they pick. So
Correct.
HR analytics as a function, they can't really hire data scientists for that job because data scientists have a very very different kind of expertise per se.
Mm-hmm.
But they need somebody from the HR department who knows the data semantics, who knows what a predictive modeling is, etc. So they can hire them for the same purpose. They remain a part of the HR ecosystem, but at the same time they help them get a data driven decision.
Okay.
And and HR data is something, Ishani, that just sits in the HRIS portal untouched, which has
Mm-hmm.
been so for a very long time, and now people
Yeah.
have realized that it's an investment worth making.
Correct. Absolutely. And can you also give us some companies which are hiring in HR? Because not all the companies would be, hiring. Some of the bigger, companies would be investing more in getting professionals who know data and who know HR to
Absolutely. So,
cut down on the costs.
yes, so absolutely. Adani Group is hiring. We have HDFC. We have one of the
Mm-hmm.
big four CY that's hiring. Then we have, other companies like Walmart. We have
Mm-hmm.
Deloitte. We have Accenture. So the list goes on and on and on. Even from starting from the company that has a workforce of, let's say, 600,
Mm-hmm.
which is a smaller company. I'm not, couldn't quite really recall the name, but they were also hiring for an HR analyst. So
Okay.
there are a lot of jobs available out there, Ishani, and as the economy gets back up by Q2 of next year, probably we will be seeing more job visible to the people,
More jobs visible. All
and more
right.
specifically to HR analytics.
Yeah, great, great. Thank you, Abhinav. It was wonderful talking to you, and I think you gave a lot of inputs. I'm sure anybody who wants to get into HR, this is a very good session that we had,
I'm glad
and
I could
a
help.
lot of questions that come to me. Even I'm much more clear about it, how to answer those questions to my future candidates. So thank you so much, and really proud to have an alumni like you.
Sure, pleasure, Ishani.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Abhinav.